So, right, like I was saying, thinking of video games, right? Most of the time, people think of video games as the opposite of work. Games are fun. And for the most part, it's much more enjoyable to come into a Zoom meeting and just watch me lose at a video game than it is to come in and listen to a discussion about different leadership theories. However, in this presentation, we're proposing that it doesn't have to be work or play, one or the other. And that actually having a combination of both might be more beneficial to your leadership than just saying, okay, it's work time, so we're going to work, and it's play time, so we're going to play. In fact, Dr. Stuart Brown, a psychologist, practicing physician, and founder of the National Institute for Play, is quoted as saying that the opposite of play isn't work. The opposite of play is depression. And once you dive into the traditional aspects of a video game, you'll see that at their core, video games offer nothing but work. Every single video game is just unnecessary obstacles that people are choosing to overcome. And people love it, right? Like if you're given an unnecessary obstacle at your place of work, right? It might be considered an annoyance or something you have to deal with. However, in a video game, people choose every single day to accomplish unnecessary obstacles. So how have video game industries tricked the world into completing millions and millions of hours of work? Well, video games offer the perfect iteration of that work, right? Game designers understand that nothing gives humans a better rush than accomplishing tasks that they're passionate about. The elation that you feel when you're praised by your boss for a hard day in the office, or that when you complete a really difficult task at your job, that's the same sensation that you feel after you defeat Ganondorf for the first time in The Legend of Zelda, or reach Diamond for the first time in League of Legends, or take on Gravemind in Halo 2. And if you don't believe me with that, think about World of Warcraft. For those of you who have never played World of Warcraft, it is one of the most popular online video games that the world has ever seen. In fact, more hours have been logged in World of Warcraft than humans have walked the earth. And World of Warcraft is considered a grinding game where you need to spend hundreds and hundreds of hours just slowly and monotonously leveling up your skills. Most serious World of Warcraft players say that it takes over 500 hours of gameplay to get to the best parts of the game. However, people, sign up and play this game, literally pay and to spend their time logged into World of Warcraft, completing monotonous tasks so they can slowly level up. So now, however, a majority of the time we think of games as a waste of time. However, throughout this presentation, we're going to be discussing how those video game designers motivate people to complete unnecessary tasks. And throughout the rest of this presentation, Scott and I are going to be giving you lessons about leadership that you can learn from video games and strategies that you can use to apply them to your work here at the RWC. So first, I just want to talk a little bit about why video games get a bad reputation, right? When you think of gaming, most people don't see much value in it. There's a social stigma around gamers. Just think about some of the language that we use when you talk about gamers, right? When someone is gaming the system, it means that they're cheating or they're playing unfairly to get what they want. That's a bad thing, right? Gamers, and so that term of gaming the system is a bad thing. On top of that, a player is somebody who takes advantage of other people to get what they want. Even gamers themselves use this negative terminology to describe each other. When someone is better than you at the game, like Scott just beat me in Pong, a lot of the time a gaming term to describe someone who's better than you, you call them sweaty to demean them, right? And it implies that they just sit around in a sweaty gaming chair all day and do nothing. And I guarantee it's not true, okay? I've got a gaming chair behind me and I showered this morning. It's not all I do. I do other things. I'm just better than you at video games, all right? But the point here being is that most of the time, all the language we use around gamers, the way that we think about people that play video games, and even the way that video game players think about other people that play video games is negative. They think that they're just wasting their time and there's nothing to be gained from it, right? And so then think of most of the gamers that immediately when you think of a video game player, you might think of somebody in their mom's basement that just spends all day learning no skills and wastes their time. However, this type of language and social stigma, it holds us back from the valuable aspects of what video games can teach us. So let's put those stigmas out of our head for the next 45 minutes or so and dive into exactly what we can learn from video games. So before we can learn what video games have to teach us about leadership, it's important to have an understanding of the basics of what makes a game a game. And according to video game designer Jane McGonigal, whose research we base a significant portion of this presentation on, the 4 aspects that make a game are: number 1, a goal; 2, rules; 3, feedback and a positive feedback system; and 4, voluntary participation within the game. Now, you might be thinking that this definition lacks a lot of what you think about when you imagine a video game. This definition leaves out a storyline, graphics, guns, and so many other things that we associate with video games. However, every great game at their very core fits this definition. For example, let's take the game of Pong, and I'm reading the chat over here. Emma, pretty much like the Jane Goodall of the gaming world. She has her PhD actually in video game design and has done several TED Talks and written several books about what video games can teach us about leadership. So absolutely, Jane McGonigal is like the Jane Goodall of the gaming world. Okay, but for example, let's put this theory into practice and think about Pong again. Pong is video gaming at its absolute simplest, right? There's no flashy graphics. The goals and the rules and everything, it's super obvious. Like, the graphics are terrible. It literally hurts my eyes looking at the screen right now because of how blurry it is. But right, everybody has played Pong at some point in their life, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the intricate detail of the game. However, like I said, it's a prime example of these 4 aspects of a video game. The goal, obviously, is to get that small dot past your opponent's paddle. The rules are super simple. You can only move vertically across your screen. Also, the feedback is pretty obvious to the player. If your score is staying the same, like mine was, and your opponent's score is going up, like Scott's was, then obviously you can be doing something different. So lastly, you have the option to throw your controller and quit at any time you want. That's that voluntary participation. At any point, you can just rage quit the game. There's no flashy graphics. There's no intense mechanics. There's no enticing storyline. Like I said, it's video gaming in its simplest form. However, with just these basic components, Pong has motivated millions of people over 5 decades to play billions of games of Pong. Like I said, millions of hours have been logged into the game of Pong, and it is the absolute simplest with just those 4 aspects. The video game designers of Pong are motivating people to spend so much time playing. So if we can learn these 4 aspects and we can adapt the 4 aspects of a game into our daily work lives, we can stay motivated ourselves, and we can also help motivate the people around us. So let's start with the goal. Right? Achieving goals is what motivates people to get out of bed in the morning. Goals drive an institution. Several studies show that setting goals are effective and almost mandatory for productivity. However, the MMO has perfected the aspect of achieving goals. For those of you who don't know what that is, an MMO stands for Massive Multiplayer Online Games. These are games like World of Warcraft, EVE Online, Elder Scrolls, and RuneScape. And in these games, the general goal of every single player that loads into it is to better yourself. It's self-betterment, right? So you log in and you level up your combat stats. You increase your trade skills, like construction or smithing or something like that. And then that allows you to go on different adventures and create a better society within the game. So the whole aspect in the point of the game is to create a better society by starting with yourself. However, these goals motivate people because they are given to you in specific pieces that you can realistically achieve no matter your experience in the game. And that instills players with what is called urgent optimism. Urgent optimism refers to the feeling that players get when they're given an objective that they believe 100% they are capable of accomplishing. And that urgent optimism manifests itself in extreme self-motivation. So, for example, when you load into RuneScape for the first time, I'm using RuneScape as an example because I've been playing it a lot, especially during meetings. So that's what immediately was on my mind. So when you load into RuneScape for the first time, you're not immediately given the task to go and slay the mighty dragon, right? You're given the manageable task of helping a baker make a cake. You help Romeo and Juliet figure out their drama, and then possibly like kill a chicken along the way or something. And these manageable goals help the player to motivate themselves because they're what we call SMART goals. A lot of you have probably heard of this term before, right? SMART goals is, it's not a new term, but I'm still going to go over it because I think that we can learn a lot about these SMART goals and how video games have perfected the aspects of SMART goals and then apply that to our leadership. So this is what SMART goals are. The basis of a SMART goal is that if you make a goal specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based, that it will be a much more effective goal than if you don't do that. So setting these types of goals for yourself can ensure that you are making the best of your time here at the RWC. And instead of just going through day to day and like swiping cards at the front desk or, doing whatever your job is here, you can set a goal for yourself to try and achieve different tasks that you think are important. However, as well as if you're a supervisor, you can help your employees set these goals. So let's talk about RuneScape again. When you go and try and complete the very first quest in the game, Cook's Assistant, your goal is to help a baker make a cake for the king's birthday. However, he needs you to get all these different materials because he is completely incompetent. And you, however, are not completely incompetent. So the cook gives you a list of items he needs and where and how you can obtain them. This job is specific, right? Make a cake. Pretty easy. This goal is measurable. If you're getting the items, you're making progress. You check that off your little shopping list for the day. This goal is achievable. He gives you the resources that you need to get everything, right? He gives you where you can exactly where you can get the flour, where there's the wheat that you can grind. He gives you the location of the chicken coop where you go and grab the egg, and so everything like that. It's relevant, right? And so you might not think it's very relevant just making a cake, but you need to complete this quest in order to continue on with the game. You need to complete it to get to more difficult things and to eventually slay the mighty dragon. It's also time-based, right? You need to do it before the king's birthday, which is tonight. And this is the same with our personal goals. We can apply this example to our personal goals. We can do our best to make them SMART goals in order to motivate us towards completing them. However, when assigning these goals to different employees, I want you guys to be thinking about what you're going to do when you're in a higher up position, because you guys are the future leaders here at UCF and the future leaders once you go into the job market, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to me talk about video games. Obviously, you're going to go on and change the world after this. So when you go and you work with employees, you can work them through SMART goals and play the part of the cook in this, right? Giving them the necessary details and explaining why it's important. And this helps employees realize why what they're doing matters. And it gives them that all-important urgent optimism that I said and that I talked about. That urgent optimism in manifesting that within your staff and even here within the RWC is what can make employees truly motivated to complete tasks. So next, let's talk about rules. Everybody needs to be following the same rules in the game, right? Rules are a pivotal part of gaming, but they have important implications for how we can be leaders as well. Rules allow people to be able to think creatively about solutions. However, most of the time we are just at the beginning of our shift. We're given a gigantic rule book at the very beginning of starting a new job. And most of the time that isn't helpful or conducive to learning. So just by a show of hands here, if you want to just hit a reaction button, how many times have you started a new job or on your first day were just given a handbook and then later that day you had to deal with an issue that you had no idea how to solve? Personally, I felt that a lot, especially when I was working in the restaurant industry. It was just like you're kind of baptized by fire and it's like, here's a rule book, now go and solve all the issues. Right? But that's not exactly how humans learn the best, you know? And I want to bring up an example of a game that really teaches you the rules the best way possible, and that's Portal. For those of you who have never played Portal, it's a classic puzzle game in which you have to maneuver your way through different rooms using a portal gun. However, the rules make Portal more difficult. You can only place portals on certain surfaces, and you can't place more than 2 portals at one time. And you have to interact with different objects around the room to get you from one destination to another. All the while, you have a murderous robot saying things like this to you, and the whole time you're trying your best to complete these tasks. And if you started on the very last level of Portal, and it was your first time playing, then you would have absolutely no chance of completing it, right? Because you're just given a rule book and say, okay, here's the last level, good luck. Without completing the hundreds of puzzles that it takes to lead up to it, you have no chance of completing that final level. But like I said, Portal mastered the way that it teaches the rules to players. First, they only give you the information exactly when you need it. And it only gives you relevant information to that time. In the very first level, your task is to get out of a sealed room using just your portal gun. So the game teaches you how to use the portal gun, and the task suddenly becomes easy. Portal also teaches you information exactly when it's time to use that skill. Later on in the game, you need to pick up a ball, and you need to launch it across the room using portals. So then the game immediately teaches you about gravity and how gravity interacts with the portals, and then all of a sudden you can figure it out. So the game takes the time immediately before the puzzle to explain how that gravity works and how you can get this ball from point A to point B. Lastly, the game builds on each one of the skills, ensuring that you're confident in one skill before moving on to another. And this ensures that you always have the tools that you need to complete the task. Then, eventually, after all of these levels, you will have a combination of every single skill in your toolbox to complete your hardest challenge yet of defeating GLaDOS. However, that isn't necessarily how learning is handled when you start a new job, right? Like I said, and like you guys have been reacting, it's like a lot of times you aren't given proper information, or if you are given that information, it's in a rule book that you were given to you months ago, right? It's in like a policy handbook that you have to go and find. If only every single boss that you've ever had played video games, right? Then that life would be so much simpler because they would understand this. But video game designers understand how humans learn and retain information. So as leaders in the Recreation and Wellness Center, we can emulate the way that Portal teaches players the rules of the game. We can give people knowledge exactly when it's relevant and ensure that they've mastered the skill, then build off of that before moving on to the next skill. All right, so feedback, right? A positive feedback system. Video games give us feedback in a way that encourages players to do more work, because all of the time the feedback is meaningful to you, but it's also visible. It's right there exactly when you need it, and it shows you that you're moving in a positive direction. For example, in World of Warcraft, after you kill a monster, you can visibly see your attack power and your strength increase because it pops up on your screen. It shows you that you're making positive steps towards your goal of, of self-betterment, right? So like after you guys leave this KLS, a thing isn't going to pop up in front of your eyes that's just like +5 intelligence, and I'm not going to get like +15 speaking, right? That's not how it works in the real life. But however, when we do this, when players get that constant feedback, it gives the player a sense of blissful productivity. You know that every single time you log into World of Warcraft, not a single second of time is being wasted. Every action moves you towards your goal. When they're killing monsters, right, they know they're being productive because they can see their stats increasing. Video games always give you rewards as feedback as well. And this can come in several different platforms, such as better armor, better weapons, and more gold in your inventory. These are great motivators, right? Seeing those things. And although they are motivating, they are extrinsic rewards. Extrinsic rewards refer to things in the real world like money, right? So getting a pay raise, and it's a great way to be rewarded. However, several studies have shown that intrinsic rewards are truly what motivate people to stay connected and to always want to come back to work and to continue doing that job. Intrinsic rewards are things like a feeling of accomplishment when we perform meaningful work and perform it well. So it can be compliments from your boss, but most importantly, it is that feeling of waking up and knowing that every day you're going to be making progress towards your goals. So, right, like watching the end credits of a difficult story game is even more rewarding because you know that you performed that task, whatever the game is, really, really well. You performed it so well, in fact, that the game says there's no further for you to go. You win. So you didn't actually win any money or anything extrinsic, but you won an accomplishment. And these intrinsic rewards, like I said, have been proven to be much more motivating for staff. Lastly, good games reward you by allowing you to move on to the next level once you've reached a certain point, right? It allows you to progress. In a game like League of Legends, you don't get to move up in the rankings and face better people unless that you've proved that you're good enough to do so. As you continue to win, you continue to play against better and better people. And this always keeps you at the very edge of your skill level in every single game of League of Legends that you play. If a game or a job, per se, is too easy, it's not going to be meaningful. You're going to come to work and you're going to be bored. However, video games have mastered this with progression. Right, it's extremely demotivating when you're not challenged in your work. But video games always ensure that you're pushing your limits in every single game that you play. You are always on the very edge of your skill level, always clocked in, always, your brain always needs to be working at 100%. And that's what people are motivated by. It might seem like people want to be lazy, but studies show that people want to be motivated by tasks that they know they can improve and that they know they can accomplish. So again, we can adapt this. We can bring this type of leadership to the Recreation and Wellness Center. We can help our staff, maybe the ones that are at the front desk just swiping cards all day. I guess you're not physically swiping cards anymore, but you were. And so, so you can show your staff here at the RWC that there's a big picture and that swiping those cards does put the RWC in a positive progression towards our goals, right? What everybody, even at the front desk people, are doing is an essential part to the RWC. We can show them the feedback. We can give them that feeling of blissful productivity by possibly showing them, all right, this is how many people were able to come today and make a healthy life choice. This then in turn helped our retention metrics, which then gets us more funding, and it shows our staff that we are making positive progress towards our goals. We can also verbally congratulate them on a job well done, and we can keep them at the very edge of their skill level by offering promotions or other sorts of rewards when they deserve it. All right, so the next one, voluntary participation. So, right, like I said, at any point playing a video game, you can throw your controller and rage quit. However, continuing to play builds that resilience. And more importantly, here at the RWC, right, we're not playing a single player game. We're playing a massive multiplayer platform is what we've got going on here. And participating with other people that are choosing to follow the same rules as you and choosing to continue to play, that builds social connections. And those social connections motivate people to come back and do a good job forever and ever, right? So for this example, for the video game I'm going to talk about, I want everybody to think back to the summer of 2016. Barack Obama was president. NASA's Juno spacecraft had just entered Jupiter's orbit. It was super cool. COVID-19 wasn't a thing. But most importantly, Pokemon Go had just been released in the United States, right? And this event may have been the closest thing that we will ever see to world peace. People all over the world were going out in troops to take over gyms, catch Pokemon, and battle each other. People were literally quitting their jobs and dedicating hours every single day to play this game. And in order to experience the best parts of this game, you needed to do it with other people, right? You can't take on the gym by yourself. You need all of your other teammates there with you. And that was the way that Pokemon Go and the developers of Pokemon Go managed to addict so many people to this game and make them feel like they were accomplishing something, is because in order to experience the game, you needed to create social bonds with the people around you. The chat's popping off. I need to... Yeah, no, so actually, fun fact, I am a registered Pokemon master by Google. Google, I'm thinking about, at the end of this meeting, I can go and get the business cards that they sent me with my name on it that says Patrick Rowe, Pokemon Master. So, if anyone has any questions about Pokemon, I'm the master here, right? All right, so sorry, back into why this is important. Enough of me just flexing my Pokemon knowledge. Right? So like I said, you had to create, the developers of Pokemon Go, they created social bonds around their game, and that's what made it so great, right? And if somebody was acting negatively while playing Pokemon Go, they would get banned from the game. They would get banned from the Discord server where people met up and were able to create these social bonds. So like I said, in order to create the best experience within the game, you had to have that social interaction, right? It was terrifying, but it was awesome. I see, even as an introvert, I was motivated to get out there and to talk to different people because of this video game. The participation aspect in Pokemon Go ensured that people weren't just playing the game, they were creating social connections. And right now, that's something we need more than ever. The best way that we can encourage people to come back is by making sure that they feel supported, right? So that's something that we can do in our daily work schedule here at the RWC. In several books that I have to read for my graduate degree, it says that encouraging students to feel supported is the best way that to increase retention within a university. And I think that holds true here at the RWC. If we are creating a sense of encouragement, it doesn't matter if you're a pro staff, if you're a GA, if you are just another coworker, if you are supporting the people around you, that is one way that we can create those social connections and make people continue to come back. The next one is building communities. That's a huge one that we talk about within, Kat, I just read your message in the chat about New Zealand. Yeah, that was a good week, having to go and make you guys stop so I could catch a Relicanth. That was a great day. But anyway, right, so building communities. Sorry, I keep reading Pokemon stuff, and it's getting me excited. Building communities. So, building communities has been shown in so many different retention metrics to be the best way that we can create that retention and to make sure that people are coming back, right? So I'm going to use an outdoor adventure as an example. Something that I think we do really well is build a community around our climbing tower staff. The climbing tower staff, that's where they fulfill their social engagement for the week. When they were able to come to the climbing tower, that was where they got to talk to their friends. It's where they got that exercise, and it's where they felt like they were part of that community. And so that immediately makes them more willing to come back and do the necessary jobs that will ensure that you can come back and continue to fill all that out. Lastly is teamwork here. And for teamwork, I'm actually going to pass it over to Scott, because I can drone on and on about all of these theories and everything, but Scott's a player. So, like, Scott is the don't tell me, because I'm just blanking right now.
I believe me, you got this.
Scott is the secretary for the esports club at here at UCF. He's also a coach for a high school League of Legends team, and he plays competitively with on League of Legends with esports at UCF. So I'm going to give the floor to him and let him talk about teamwork.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So I play, as Patrick mentioned, I play League of Legends. For those of you who don't know, League is a competitive online game where you essentially have 5 people against each other. And the whole goal is to destroy the enemy team's base. That may sound very simple, but it ends up becoming very complicated when you add aspects like levels, experience, items. There are like 150 different champions, right? So what ends up happening is you have all these 5 random people in one game on one team that have never met each other, and they have to work together. It might sound like a little bit of impossible, but every single game of League of Legends that you play, you get 4 other random teammates, and you have to work together to win the game. Playing League just by myself taught me, one, how to be understanding of others. Say someone has a bad game, people will be very quick to flame them. They'll throw insults and say, like, why are you playing this game? You're so bad at it. Like, just go play something else. But understanding, like, okay, maybe something's going on in real life. Maybe they're just having a bad game. You just like brush it over and say, hey, don't worry about it. We'll pick it up. And like in real life, someone is having a bad day. They come to work. They're not going to do very well in their work. They're not going to be very productive, but you understand that, you empathize with them and whatnot. And when I transitioned from playing just on my own online to joining a team, it ended up not being me and 4 other random players. It was me and 4 people that I knew, people that I would talk in the game, people that I would go hang out with, go eat food with. It became a good, like almost like a family group. But the thing about it is the level of teamwork that you need for competitive increases as well. When you're playing 5 people that are all together, the other team is also playing 5 people that are all together. They're also talking. They're also strategizing. So playing this game taught me, as an introvert, I didn't really, besides playing soccer, that was the extent of me socializing with people. But I joined the club, made friends, whatnot. But as an introvert, it gave me opportunities to connect with other people. I learned teamwork that I didn't even learn in soccer. I became more vocal. When in soccer, like, you talk a lot, right? But in League, especially in the position that I play, you get referred to as a shot caller. Think of like a captain in soccer, or like your center point of defense. You're always going to be telling your fellow defenders, hey, there's a guy over there, go over there. When I play League, the shot caller, I have to be like, okay, hey, we're going to go for this objective. We're going to play this fight like this. We're going to do this and do this to win the game. You have to be constantly thinking about the path to success in winning the game. And you can think of that translating into the real world. If you're leading a team, say you're doing a group project, okay, you need to keep them on track. You need to delegate tasks. You need to do all these different things that you learned in a video game, or at least I did. And then you just like excel at teamwork. I can't count how many times after playing this game with friends and like building that communication, that heading into group projects in class has just been a breeze. In fact, like right now I'm in a group project and it's just so easy to lead a whole group because I know almost like people's micro tendencies because of playing games with people. You can go to the next slide, Patrick. But this also leads into an execution element. In games, you have to constantly think of like snap-second decisions, right? And I don't know how many of you know about the train in the crossroads section. You are a person who has control of swapping the train track, right? And each side there are people trapped. There's a big group of people. There's just one person, and you have to weigh that like split-second decision of who to save. You could save the multitude of people, or you could save the one life. But then on top of that, you can go even deeper. What if those big group of people are nobody you know, and then the one person is a loved one? It becomes very hard to answer that like split-second decision. And video games put you in this split-second decision all the time. A good example that I'll use is a game called A Way Out. It is a 2-player co-op game where basically you are 2 guys who get set up in I believe it was a drug deal. But you're 2 guys who got set up in a drug deal and got arrested, and your whole goal is to break out of prison and get revenge on the drug lord that set you up. What ends up happening is the way the game is played is you can see your friend's screen while you're playing. So you can use their information and kind of like progress through the game. But then later on, it'll bring you this split-second decision where you can choose to like save one person or save another, jump to this area or this area. And these different decisions change the outcome of the game. Also, like the train problem would change the outcome of real life. This voluntary like situation you're putting yourself in by playing this game kind of teaches you this split-second decision making that you wouldn't get from anywhere else. You're not going to be put in a situation where, at least I hope you weren't, breaking out of prison and having to choose between saving your best friend or this other person, jumping up on this ladder or choosing this path. Which one will lead you to like success? I hope you don't have to make those decisions, but these voluntary like imaginary situations that you put yourself in can teach you that split-second decision making that you wouldn't learn anywhere else. And
yeah. Awesome, Scott. Yeah. So this execution element is something that we're only able to really experience in the video games. Like nobody is actually going to be sitting there with a lever deciding who's living and who's dying in real life. But like Scott said, playing video games give you that split-second decision making and can teach you a lot about the way that you handle stress and the way that you are a leader. So we didn't want to just ramble on the whole time. We wanted to give you guys some hard skills as well and some chance to really self-evaluate and evaluate your own leadership style. And for this, I need a little bit of engagement. So if you guys are on a computer right now, you can click your annotate button. It might be under more or something similar. And you can annotate, and I want everybody to try and find their stamp. I'll show you real quick what it looks like. Hold on, I have to exit out of my... So if you click annotate and click the stamp button, you can click a stamp and you can put hearts all over, but I want every single person to remember which stamp that they have. And what we're going to do here is go through a little bit of what we do at Outdoor Adventure when we're deciding leadership styles. So here I'm going to play this screen again. And I want everybody in the chat to take your stamp. And these are super polarizing statements here. But I want you guys to move only along the x-axis here. and choose which side that you think you are. If you agree with the one on the left a little bit, only go a little bit to the left. If you think you agree with the one on the right a lot, you go really far to the right. And so it's like that axis of how hard do you agree with this statement in your leadership. And so you can take your annotate tool and put your little star or heart or something there. There's no choosing in the middle. And then just remember exactly where you are. There's still a couple people doing that, so I'm gonna leave it up for another 10 seconds. So 10 more seconds to decide where you fall on this spectrum. All right, and then we're moving on to the next question. In this one, we're only going to be using the y-axis. So take where you're at. If you were over on that left side, take where you were at on the x-axis and move either up or down based on how much you agree with one of these statements here. So read them in full and then make sure that you annotate your stamp accordingly. And like I said, these are meant to be pretty polarizing in one way or the other. All right, I'm going to give everybody 10 more seconds to place their stamp. Okay, now depending on exactly where you fell, like if first you went to the right and then the second time you went up, this is the type of leadership style that you have. And I'm going to share something in the chat right now about each one of like the pros of each leadership style, what a person with that leadership style brings to a group, and how to best work with somebody with that leadership style, as well as we call them an outdoor adventure, we call them deltas, because we don't say that there are negatives to any leadership style because there really aren't. There are just situations specifically that might be a little more challenging for one type of leadership style than for another one. Personally, I'm a relationship master, and so when I get put into a situation where it's difficult for me to have to voice my opinion, that's something I struggle with, but a driver or an analyst and architect might not have that same issue. So I want everybody to remember exactly where they are, and I'm gonna open up some breakout rooms here. I'm gonna open up the breakout rooms for just 5 minutes. Give me a second here to do all of that. And what I want you guys to discuss when you go into these breakout rooms, you're going to be going in with only people that you align your leadership style with as well. So analysts and architects are going to be going to the analysts and architects breakout room, and you are going to have the opportunity here to choose exactly which one that you're going to. And so when you're there, I want you to discuss the strengths of your leadership style and then how you can apply it to the RWC, ways that you can counteract the deltas, and then how you can best work with other types of leaders as well. So I'll type that out in the chat. And I'm going to open the breakout rooms, and you guys can discuss this with people that have a similar leadership style as yourself. So you might not have been back into this room when we were talking about this, but this can grow and develop over time. And just because you are in one quadrant, it doesn't mean you don't have leadership characteristics of every other quadrant. A mature leader, I think that's the language that a lot of it uses, is a mature leader will have characteristics from every single different type of leadership style. And I also want to mention that not one leadership style is valued over another. You need people with a variety of different skills to make sure that we are successful here at the RWC. So these are some video games that we think that we put together that you can use to sharpen your leadership. And it's important to build on your strengths, right? A lot of times people are like, oh, spend a lot of time working on things that you're weak at. But in things like leadership, especially when we're at the RWC, where there's such a wide variety of leaders, you can really just hone in on the strengths that you already have. The strengths of your leadership will be able to benefit you more than maybe necessarily working on some of the deltas that you have, because you have somebody else that is going to be, that your deltas, it's going to be their strengths. Like I said, I was a relationship master. Somebody else might be able to handle a situation that involves confrontation much better than I could. So I pass that off to somebody that will be even better and delegate that. So these are some video games that you can use to sharpen those leaderships. These games are all good for any type of leadership style. Like we said, we think video games really can improve your leadership. And so you can take these video games, you can play them, and they'll probably grow some of the strengths of every single category, but they have the characteristics of the game will really help build the strengths that you have of your specific type of leadership style. So I hope you guys learned a little bit more about video games today, kind of change that perception and that bad reputation that video games have, and sort of move that into a more positive direction and find what you can learn about video games instead of judging what people think are bad aspects of them. So thank you so much for coming. As promised, here is my Pokemon Master card that I got sent from Google.
A relationship master and a Pokemon master.
Just a subtle flex, just a little bit. But thank you guys so much for coming. Scott and I are going to stay on just a little bit longer if you guys have any questions or comments or any concerns. So thank you, everybody. And I will see you guys either virtually or around the RWC. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Scott.